We out here. Oh shit. That's Califray right here. Chat. Boom. We're out here. All right. Shout out to Califray up there in the chat. He says, "Hey, hi. What are you? Ow. Wow. Black and white. Amazing." Yeah. Welcome to another episode of my everyday writing stream. Shout outs to whoever in the hip hop Discord put the sleep emoji next to this one. It's Hank right there. If you're in the hip hop Discord, if you could just shout out to Hank and tell him I said he's whack. And that's why he don't win no contest no more. Real talk. Anyhow, so we're at day number 38. We're almost halfway through this book. Yeah, it's like I might make another one of those black and white images because it was fun to make the first one. I've got like a few more ideas for things that I might do to make it like a little bit more wild there. But yeah, it's just another day over here editing. We had the show last night. It was relatively successful. We did an AMA on the real MK Ultra Discord. I did a lot of like heavy talking about like the futures of demographics and who really controls the world. Ain't me. And yeah, a lot of other factors. I'd say it was a good show overall. I see Jira up there. Jiro won't be able to have talk much, but he says good luck, have fun today. Yeah, thanks for showing up. Even just having this on in the background, like I'm barely paying attention at the time, so I can't expect everybody else to be coming through here. Okay, so we're not gonna run through chapter 52 yet again, but we are gonna it might be worth our while to run through the new scenes that we wrote there. Because I'm okay with chapter 52. Let's just make a note for one more pass on I wish I could do comments in different color. So we're gonna do one more pass on it, but I just I don't have it in me to get back into the Colossus this morning. You know what I'm saying? I think we did a good job tightening that up. I think Garbuglio's statements afterward are pretty solid. And we can go with a read through of chapter 53, which I thought was like the feel good chapter of the year right there. God damn, I like have to. I lifted too many weights about 2 days ago, and today I'm just feeling the heartbreak of it right there. Like I can't fully extend my. I mean, I can do it. It's just a little bit painful, and my neck was sore as fuck yesterday. Um, and then just that's what happens when you lift with like shitty form, which I was definitely doing, and just try to lift too much weight. Now I gotta send my girl the like, hey, you know how you want to go for a bike ride today? Let's not fucking do that because everything hurts. I think I might be too tore up to fuck, just between you and me. But I know myself. Yeah, I'll start up fucking anyway. Unknown Pleasures shirt, nice. Now this is like one of those ripoff situations right there. It's supposed to be the mountain range of South Africa. My mom sent it to me, so shout outs to my mom. She's a real one. I like that she's always sending me T-shirts because I always need T-shirts. Because they're see me wearing the same thing for like 5 days in a row in here because I don't have no sense. But yeah, so if you've never been on this before, you're just wandering in here at a twitch.tv, or you're one of the Chinese factory workers that's out here that you're forced to work this by the Chinese government, or if you're one of the federal agents tasked with surveilling all of my various projects, I feel sorry for you, but you might as well have a good time while you're here. This is the 38th straight day I'm recording editing of my 8th novel. It's called Gravid. It's a science fiction sort of romance involving a young woman who suffers from severe depression. Real talk. And I will just warn you, I'm pretty sure that from this point of the book on, there's fucking in like every other chapter. So if you're like a total prude or whatever, you're forewarned. Forewarned. Because at this point, I think the rest of the book is just people getting drilled. Which is how I like my books to be, you know? Like I want enough preamble lead up to where I care about the characters, and then I just want nonstop fucking and sucking. Mm. Oh. There we go. So yeah, let us begin. So this is chapter 53. This is Gravid by Zach ZYZ. And thank you for that shout out to my mum there, Jira. Well, let's get down to it. Generally on Saturday mornings, we just take like a little bit more relaxed approach to the whole situation right here. Just because, you know, it's Saturday morning. Ain't nobody trying to get too hectic with it. And I was up until like 1 in the morning last night doing missions and Red Dead Revolver 2 or Red Dead Redemption or whatever the hell it is. The cowboy game. You know what I'm talking about. So, wow. Rough one, huh? Dan was waiting for Freya in the parking lot. She should have made a joke about it, she should have made a joke about it and acted like it wasn't that bad. Instead, she crumpled against Dan and he hugged her. Yeah, it's like a kind of a choppy fucking parrot. Hold on just a second. I gotta make some adjustments to my genitals. Phew. There we go. Yeah, man. It's an unspoken price of having a big old dick is if you're dressing the wrong way. It's uncomfortable. Just putting it out there. Dan was waiting for Freya in the parking lot. She should have made a joke about this. She should have made a joke and acted like it wasn't that bad. She should have made a joke and acted like the session hadn't been that bad. Instead, she crumpled against Dan, and he hugged her. She held on for as long as she thought she could. Yeah, she managed, reluctantly letting go. Let's get out of here, please. Dan walked around the car and opened the door for her. Normally, it would seem kind of corny, but right now she needed anything she could get. Thank you, she said, settling into the seat. And when she closed the door... Thank you, she said, settling into the seat. When she closed the door, she felt better with a barrier between her and the office at 777 Emerson. She had only felt good in this car. Nothing inside of... nothing inside of here had ever hurt her. Was it one of his exercises? The shore walk or the ribbon one? The ribbon one. What's the shore walk? I'm not sure if we should talk about it. It might be less effective if you know about it beforehand. I don't want to mess up your treatment. That's fair, Freya said. I didn't realize he did the same things with everyone. I think he's kind of like a comedian, where he has a bunch of routines he picks from. He might change up his delivery a little bit, depending on the audience. I remember the ribbon exercise very well. I was messed up for like 3 days after that. Wait, did you see the statue too? Freya was suddenly excited by the idea Dan might have had the same vision. But instead he looked around the car, thinking she meant an actual statue. No. I mean, when you were doing the exercise, did you imagine a big statue? No, nothing like that, he said, looking a bit perplexed. Did you? I kind of zoned out when he had me close my eyes. I sort of had a daydream, she said, backtracking. A colossus, bound in chains. It crashed into the sea and dragged me down with it. Oh, wow. It's intense. I just imagine my sister with the ribbons tied between us. Did he not do the thing where you talk about each ribbon, undoing the bow and putting it away? No, it was something totally different. We didn't do that. Wow. Well, maybe it's all less structured than I thought. What was the Colossus like? Freya described the whole scene as they drove. She needed to tell someone. The starball was warm, fighting against her sinking feeling. For the first time, she wondered if there was a battery in it. What would she do if it ran out? I don't know that this is actually the first time that she's wondered that. And I think it's the kind of thing that she would have supposed previous when she was doing... God damn, like my neck and my back are fucking killing me. It's wild. All right, so DMA is saying he had this shirt in 1980, and he says, the shirt definitely did not exist in 1980. It's not the fucking Joy Division shirt. It's a ripoff shirt. You just look at the waves, nigga. You know, that ain't hard to tell. Wow. Well, maybe it's all less structured than I thought. What was the Colossus like? Freya described the whole scene as they drove. She needed to tell someone. Jesus, that's wild, Dan said, pulling into the parking lot of Flying Horse Regional Hospital. Are you cool to go in? He asked. Yes, of course, she said, trying to sound surer than she felt. So I think that's actually correctly centered. Yep. Radomir was in rough shape. He was in a neck brace with deep purple bruises on both of his cheekbones, running under a wedge. Who dares to summon me? Now somebody is fucking why is Khan Academy fucking messaging me all the time, man? Yeah. Uh, I just want to yeah, here, let me turn off all email on this motherfucker. I just want you to know that if you work in marketing and you specifically work in engagement, I hate you and I hope you fucking die. Like if your job is just to hassle people and annoy them and so forth, the earth would really be better off if you were dead and in hell. Just putting it out there. Like I've worked at marketing companies too. At some points in my life, I was an awful piece of shit, just like you. So just stop it. Just don't fucking do it. There are ways to market that are not awful and unsufferable. And as a collective, I think we should just shun all these people that are involved in an unsavory market. People like Andrew Orenheimer, for instance, who worked in spam mail for a long time. We just need to ostracize these people, and then we will have a society without annoying fucking spam mail all the time. Like if your friend tells you he's got like a great new job and he's working at a call center, like calling people up and trying to sell them cable or something like that, just beat his ass right there on the spot. Just beat him down. And when he asks why, just be like, stop fucking doing that. Because people like this are fucking up the whole discourse for everybody. And I'm a believer in the corrective action of social ostracization and violence. So that's my theory on the topic anyhow. And people are like, oh, they got to earn a living and so forth. Like, excuse does not hold water with me. I don't care if you got like 8 kids with super duper autism and Mengele syndrome and a bunch of other shit nobody's heard of. Don't do that work. You know, that's bad work. It's like being a fucking scab in a strike, but against the whole human race with your shitty advertising. Just fucking can't stand advertising, man. And the worst is, like, you know, I'd love for my projects to be more popular and so forth, but I don't want to do it in like a creepy and shitty way like that. Yeah, it's a tough one, man. It's not like an easy issue, but definitely it's one that could be solved by like just wailing on somebody with a sack full of doorknobs. Radomir was in rough shape. He was in a neck brace, and under a wedge of bandages that covered his nose were deep purple bruises on his cheekbones. Looking at the glossy shiner on his left eye, Freya wondered if things really did come in threes. This was the third black eye. Still, Radomir smiled when he saw them enter, and she didn't see any teeth missing. Brad, Dan, Tate, and Jeanette were already there, along with Radomir's mother. I wonder if we named his mother. Let's call her Olga. Olga Stitch. It was crowded in the room. There were cards and flowers. Wait, let's find the origin of Olga. Yeah, let's find out. Because we were talking to a Spanish woman. Found him from Oleg, a name derived from the Scandinavian Helgi, which has its root in Old Norse. Huh. Well, there we go. It was crowded in the room. There were cards and flowers clustered all along the wide ledge of the window. Dan stiffened at Freya's sides. Dan stiffened, his hands curled into fist. Dan stiffened when he saw Radomir, his hands curled into fists. He was furious, and Freya realized she was too. There was an incipient shout building in her throat, an urge to grasp and tear rippling through her arms. She blinked at the feeling. This wasn't how she got angry. Her anger was sharp and quick, where this was slow and searing, with a dangerous sense that it might explode at any time. Was the star ball trying to make her mad? She reached into her pocket and felt it was growing warm. She felt the cool rush again. Mm-hmm. She felt the cool, calming rush again, but it felt muted and ineffective, kind of removed. Are you okay? Jeanette asked, and it wasn't clear if she was asking Dan or Freya. Yes, yes, they replied in unison. Oh, wait. I wonder if there's a way that you can, like, split your voice, like, in your tongue so that you get natural reverb. Yeah. No, that doesn't work at all. I don't know. There's some kind of way to do it. Yeah, I'll just double my voice in the tracking when we do the recording for that one, assuming that I have to fucking do this myself. All right, hold on. What is Stovepipe linking us here with Jeanette? I guess that's what that character could look like. I don't know. We don't spend a lot of ink on her. We don't spend any ink, actually, because I don't think I've ever written down any part of Gravid. And I don't think it's ever been printed. As far as I know. Maybe it has. I don't know. But yeah, no ink wasted. Completely fucking digital. It's going to be a big bummer for me, actually, if this... Yeah, maybe... Well, I've got access to, like, the big Xeroxes at school. Maybe I should print out, like, hard copies of all the manuscripts and just put them in a box somewhere. It'd be kind of cool. Just in case there's, like, a fucking EMP. I guess for the books where we have printed versions of the books, we don't really have to do that. But, yeah, maybe I'll, like, put together, like, some kind of hardened EMP proof whatever, so that when we're wandering around the wasteland, I can have, like, the last floppy disk with a book on it. I'll encode it into the DNA of some tardigrades or something. Yes, they replied in unison, and everyone paused. I shouldn't have let him run away, Dan said, and Freya felt the guilt behind his anger, a flash of self-disgust that he'd been afraid to fight. A flash of self-disgust that he'd been afraid to get beaten up, and then the calm washed everything away. She was locked in place, trying to decide if she'd really felt what Dan was feeling, or if she'd only imagined it. Even if he kicked his ass, he probably would have done some cowardly shit anyway. It might have been worse, Cameron offered, and the hair on Freya's arms was standing up as she strained to feel what Dan did, but the moment was over. Twice my size. He does not even fight me. I was struck from behind. Damn, lucky for him, he will be in jail when I am free for here. Shout out to holding her nose to mimic the effort of Yuzizuk, Radimir's mother commanded. Freya saw their eyes meet, the defiance in Radimir's stare throwing sparks against his mother's implacable will. The room grew silent, and Freya was anxious to break up the awkwardness. I brought you something, Freya said. In her bag was a brand new copy of Solaris. She remembered reading Randall's copy, the 1971 UK first edition, with an abstract tidal wave crashing across a cover that had once been pure white. She finished it on a rainy afternoon and just stared out the window for a long time afterward, feeling utterly desolate and alone. Radimir accepted the book and thanked her, flipping it over to look at the back cover copy. It's the Polish edition, Radimir exclaimed, his voice rising with excitement. Where did you find this? I had to order it. Freya beamed at his response. You're lucky you can read Polish. There isn't a direct English translation in print. I had to read a copy that was doubly translated, first from Polish to French, then from French to English. It was pretty gruesome, but still, it's an amazing book. Let me know how you like it. Radimir held the book in both hands, and he thanked her. She knew she'd picked the right gift. Radimir and his mother were suddenly... Yeah, I think it's necessary to have the Radimir in there for clarity. Oh, who do I see in this chat right here? Welcome Transgender homosexual. Huh. Wait, so would that be? Oh, so all right. Like, how would that work out? So let's just pick a dude. So he's transgendered. So yeah, like a trans woman who's a lesbian, which is a thing that does happen. Um, yeah, it's a shame that like well, maybe not a shame or whatever, but yeah, a lot of those like estrogen and so forth inhibit sperm motility and so forth. So a lot of these people are not in a position where they can like have children or anything. And then they're in the position of like having to like go off their hormones to try and conceive a child. And if that's something that they want or whatever, and they have like these crazy mood swings and so forth, and already like a pretty vulnerable population, not a good situation right there, not good at all. Oh shit! Well, I like what I'm seeing in this image. I definitely am not going to put it on the screen. Right there. Shouts to Beowulf right there. Good God. Well, that was a fun aside right there. Radomir and his mother were suddenly chattering back and forth excitedly in Polish. The tension between them vanished. He handed the book to his mother, and she turned it over in her hands. She was farsighted. She had it. Olga and Radomir were suddenly chattering back and forth excitedly in Polish. The tension between them vanished. He, he handed the book to Olga, and she turned it over in her hands. His mother, and she turned it over in her hands. Olga was farsighted. She had to hold the book at arm's length to read the back cover copy. I read this in school, at your same age. I've thought of it many times since. This is a marvelous gift. Radomir's mother was smiling widely, and Freya was suddenly uncomfortable from all the attention. She noticed a despairing look on Jeanette's face, and at once made the connection that some of those flowers had surely come from her. With a note of regret, Freya wished she had thought to give the book to Jeanette so she could claim the idea for her own. Jeanette needed all the help she could get. The visit went on until they could all see Radomir was fading. It clearly took an effort to keep his eyes open. There was a catch in his voice as he thanked them all for coming. Freya's eyes were damp, and she wasn't the only one. The air hummed with a kind of warm camaraderie. Again, she had the echoing sensation of feeling more than just herself. She found Dan's hand and gave it a squeeze. His eyes met hers, and for a moment there was nothing else but that contact. She could not distinguish his hand, she could not distinguish her hand from his, and she didn't need to. They all made their way out of the room, and Radomir's mother wouldn't let anyone pass until she'd swept them up in a fierce hug. The friends walked out to the parking lot. So I wonder if we should exclude Radomir from the friends thing. The friends all walked to the parking lot. Oh, yeah, so you can't use all there because like one of this group of friends is laid up in that old hospital bed right now. I think we can leave it like that. The friends walked to the parking lot, shrouded in a solemn quiet until they stepped outside of the hospital. Freya took the chance to walk alongside Jeanette. Raspberry Tim Tams are his favorite cookie. They have them at Harper's on Bridge Street, Freya offered. Oh, thank you, Jeanette said, understanding the gesture at once. The book was so thoughtful. I didn't even know he knew Polish. It's his first language. Both of his parents are Polish. I think he was in Kiev until he was 8, and then they moved to Moscow. He speaks French as well. They have family in Cologne. Jeanette's eyes were bright as she absorbed everything Freya told her. She would gladly listen to Freya talk about Radomir all night, but Freya didn't want to stoke the fire of misguided hope. Betty, Jane, and Freya had each made the same mistake, with the same outcome. I'm sorry for everything that's happened to you. It must have been an awful week, Jeanette said, dropping her voice. Freya was struck by the thought. From the outside, it really had been an awful week. But at this moment, she didn't feel any of it. Nothing had stuck to her. Well, it hasn't been all bad, Freya said, tilting her head towards Dan with a grin, and Jeanette smiled back. He really likes you, Jeanette confided. I'm in 3 classes with him. I don't think he stopped smiling since Sunday. It's super cute. Freya felt a sudden warmth against the night air. Her cheeks were hot. I think that we, yeah. Her face felt hot. Yeah, I think we talk about our cheeks too fucking much in a way that I don't want to be in one of these like pigtail tugging situations. Shoutouts to Robert fucking Jordan. Mm. Or smoothing the hem of a skirt or whatever there. Oh. Yeah, man. Like, I learned a valuable lesson about free weights right here. I'm going to have to be much more careful lifting weights. But I don't think I did any permanent injury. I'm just hoitin' for soitin' at the moment. Ah! Gotta watch out or I'll turn into one of those Fent zombies. It was such a relief to hear confirmation from someone else. Jeanette was covering her smile with her palm. She looked delighted. Freya couldn't help but laugh. She was really starting to like Jeanette. She was always trying so hard. And so here I don't like... we have to completely... She was so earnest. Freya couldn't help but laugh. She was really starting to like Jeanette. She was always so earnest. Jeanette was always trying hard, really making an effort. She never tried to act cooler than she was or pretended she didn't care. It was one of the things Freya had loved about Betty. Oh, well, she actually still does love that about Betty. Betty is not dead, so we don't have to put in head. The others had gotten ahead of them, and something Dan said. And Dan said something that made Tate start laughing so hard he was snorting. Started snorting. They hurried to rejoin the pack. Okay, so I'm like explicitly taking out boys there because I don't like that like dynamic, right? Yeah, that where we're like splitting them up. The boys had gotten ahead, or I don't like that. The way that feels. I'd rather just have it be the others. Any innuendo editing? There's no innuendo, but I think the next scene is a sex scene, as are many of the scenes to come. So this is where we really get to test my iron will to go through editing, because it would probably be a lot easier to edit a lot of this shit off stream, because it's nonstop fucking. Anticipation sang between Freya and Dan the whole way home. Jeanette and Tate were in the back seat. Dan was giving them rides home. Jeanette and Tate were in the back seat. Dan was giving them rides home. Brad had taken Cam. Tate was firing off questions about Riley Halstead, and Jeanette fielded them diplomatically, trying to hint that it wasn't happening. Tate was oblivious. They all shook their heads after they dropped him off. How could he not know? They dropped Jeanette off next, and she smiled at them as she waved goodnight. Finally, it was just Freya and Dan, and her heart was a two-step of elation into apprehension. She was glad it was a long way home. I like her, Freya said as they backed out of Jeanette's driveway. Yeah, she's like really genuine. Do you think there's any hope with Rad? Not really, Freya admitted, shaking her head. Who knows, though? Maybe she can break through his shell while he's hurt. That was the most emotional I've ever seen him. Dan hesitated a moment before replying. I'm sorry he's hurt, but I think it's gross that he hit Jane. Really fucked up, Dan said, something raw in his voice. Not that he deserved to get beaten or anything. I just don't like it. Freya nodded, about to say something in agreement, but then she stopped herself. She didn't agree at all. She was about to go along with him just because she liked him. She was about to go along with Dan's opinion just because she liked him. It would be so easy. She could see herself sliding down that path. Oh, wow. It would be so easy. She could see herself sliding down that path, becoming one of those complacent girls whose identity was subsumed by the person they were dating. Was that what she was really like? She probed at the feeling, trying to tell if this was the bruise. Ooh, wow. That's a heavy fucking paragraph. And like some very like adult thinking from a young girl who is supposed to be like pretty fucked up and everything. I'm not sure that we have earned the right to have this paragraph in the story. It would be so easy to just go with the flow. She could see herself drifting down that path. Becoming one of those complacent girls. Actually, we need to pronounce complacent. Yeah. That's 51. I gotta pronounce. I think it's complacent. Complacent. Wow, complacent and complacent are really difficult. Complacent. Those words are too close to each other in English. Like there needs to be something. I mean, fortunately, complacent isn't a very popular word. Complacent. Yeah, S versus Z, like that. There's just so much room for that to be mistaken. So Stovepipe is saying that he thinks it's complacent because he's under. It's a different word. So complacent is the willingness to like sort of go along with ideas or whatever. It's exactly the right word for what we want right here. It is different than complacent, which is generally being acceptant. And let's do a deep dive on exactly what's different about these words. So complacent is willing to please others, obliging and agreeable, whereas complacent, showing smug or uncritical satisfaction with oneself or one's accomplishments. One is Dark Mage, the other one is Chili Boss, right? So that's easy. Root please versus root placebo. Yeah, so wow. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, complacent versus complete. I didn't realize that the that complacent was so negative in its I guess complacent always carries a negative context, and I didn't realize how negative it was there, but showing smug or uncritical satisfaction with oneself or one's achievements. It's wild. Yeah, yeah. So anyhow, she could see herself drifting down that path, becoming one of those complacent girls whose identity was subsumed by the person they were dating. Was that really what she was like? Freya probed at the feeling, trying to tell if this was a bruise at the edge of her or rot at her core. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, yeah. I like just like some tiny little changes to that paragraph. Just removing the word whole identity was subsumed. Better. Such a better sentence. And it feels more like it was a bruise at her edge or rot at her core. That isn't me. I'm not sad he did it, Freya said, and as she spoke, she could feel certainty hardening in her mind. She wasn't some groupie. You think it's okay he hit a girl? Dan said, his eyebrows slanted in confusion. No, I don't think he was right, but I'm glad he did it. Jane was trying to hurt me as bad as she could in front of everyone. I was in a hole and I couldn't fight back. And she knew. She just kept jabbing at me. It was vile. I'd rather get punched. At least that's honest. Dan nodded. She could tell he didn't know what to say. We used to be friends. She didn't used to be that way. She really changed, Freya said. The words were bitter in her mouth. I didn't really think of that. Of it like that, Dan said, still uneasy. It just feels wrong to me. I would never do that. It's not like he's some big, huge dude beating up on a girl half his size, either. Radomir is tiny. I'm sure Jane outweighs him. There was silence between them, and the engine rose as the car climbed the hill to Freya's house, and the heaters sighed dry, hot air at them. Freya wondered if she should have just gone along with him after all. What did it matter what she thought? For all her grandstanding, she'd been letting... Nah, okay, so I want to break that into a different paragraph. Rot from her core. Oh, let's take a look at that. But no, add as the preposition that we want there. Trying to tell if this was a bruise at her edge or rot at her core. Yeah, just because of the way that you can like really drop that line, rot at her core, versus rot from her core. Yeah. Bash dictionary. What the fuck is going on like that? Jewbird is trying to get people to idle in Bird's Nest on FNet. I'm gonna join Bird's Nest. I'm a big fan of Jewbird. Hopefully I'll get ops. Let me see there. Yeah, so I'm now in Pound Bird's Nest. Who's in there? I guess. Oh, Kong Fusey is in there. Oh, but it's a fake Kong Fusey, I think. Rain is chilling in there. Ronditos, sup you fool. How's this different from Salt Gang? I don't know. Dry hot air, but the text says hot dry air, and IMO, the former, is better. Okay, let's take a look. Oh yeah, dry hot air. Dry hot air. Oh, actually, both of these look wrong. And the heater sighed dry air at them. Freya wondered if she should have just gone along with him after all. What did it matter what she thought? For all her grandstanding, she'd been letting Dr. Garboglio and some rock from outer space tell her how to feel for weeks. Without the starball, she wouldn't even be here. She would have vanished into the hole at the top of her dreams, and her body would be washed up on the riverbank. Sorry, Dan said as he pulled into their driveway. I didn't mean to get so heavy. I wasn't there. I don't know why I'm being so judgmental. I get where you're coming from. Freya stopped short as Dan hit the brakes. As his headlights swept over her house, the shadows were all wrong. There were lines that didn't belong. It took a second to realize there were letters, dripping black spray paint all over the white doors of the garage. What the fuck? Dan said. All right. I want to stop right here. If you're viewing this right now, what do those letters of spray paint say? Just guess before you get any further. Shout outs to Atlante G right here. Spray paint on the garage. Good God Almighty. All right, I'm gonna give you a few more seconds to guess right here. It doesn't really matter, honestly, because we're probably gonna change it. What the fuck? Dan said. The lights were on in the living room, and there was another car parked in the driveway, a midnight blue X3. All Freya's hopes for tonight died. Lassa was home. In letters 5 feet high, the graffiti read, "Snitch bitch." Okay. So I think we're going to change that up. So we want to have a line art drawing there. So, hole at the top of her dreams, great love. Yeah, I don't know why we've been clinging so strongly to that, like, sort of the like black hole at the top of her dreams, but it's there in all the dream imagery. There's always like this black hole missing at the top of her there. Milady forever, and then Spathy Walk. Oh, he did say snitch. Hell yeah, snitch bitch. So I think we may change it from saying snitch bitch there. What day is this? Also, this has to be a Thursday night, and Lassa is already back. So I think what we will try to do here is, so some things have changed that I can't quite reveal to our studio audience right there. And this is a part where Lassa scenes. So two things need to start rewriting at this point. Interactions with Malcolm Lewis, interactions with Lassa, based on things that will occur later in the book there. But I have some amazing, crazy news. No, it's actually not true. We need to be at 700 and I think we have more pages to go to get to like the halfway mark, but we're closer. Okay, let's go to chapter 52. I was afraid. Oh, so here you can see where I've given myself a note. I had a rebuff romantic interest in the initial chapter with Malcolm Lewis to justify his obsessive actions. We did that, right? We absolutely, in this draft, have changed it more. We've added more scenes where he's kind of like popping up out of nowhere. We've given her more reason to just be like, oh, well, this fucking guy, leave me alone. This is so creepy. So I think that's good there. And I think, wait, is chapter 54 2 fucking pages long? It's 3 pages long. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, 7. These don't need to be 2 separate chapters. Yeah, and in fact, this is going to be one of the first spots where we're going to, I don't think this needs to be a chapter header or chapter break at all. So yeah, like, congratulations, for the first time, we can, in fact, yeah, cool. I'm glad, right? I'm glad, because like we had too many fucking chapters when all is said and done. So 54, is that actually 54? Let's go back a little bit. Yeah, we're not changing the setting. We're not, ooh, 52 is there. And maybe we did some moving or something like that. All right, so there's 52, and that's actually 52 in the final. There, what does it mean when you dream that you're somebody else? And so then chapter 53 should be the Radomir, and or the chapter 53 is the hospital scene. Cool. And then, so this should actually be chapter 54. Cool. And the deletion of that chapter actually will almost merge our chapter numbers with the right. Okay. What do we have right here? Milady forever, hole at the top of her dreams. 19 more. I've been keeping track. 6 million chapters, not one more. Astro wants ban again. Astro, I mean, you know, honestly, this is not the place for like Nazi shit posting, honestly. And there are just no Nazis in this fucking story. And I don't think that there are anything but like white people in here. So the story is already pure enough from your creepy perspective. But yeah, if you keep it up, I'm going to change it so that everybody in this book is inexplicably black in the middle of Maine just to fuck with you. So yeah, don't troll the writing stream. It really will make me dislike you. I'm just putting it out there. I'm not trying to be a little bitch about this, but but I will be one if necessary. Okay, and so we're gonna have like a page break there, which means that when we have a page break there, we need to 1, 2, 3 there. Means that we need to have at chapter top this this section divider right here. So this is one where it's a little premature to put a section divider here because most likely in the final typesetting it's not going to work out this way. But that'll just I'll know what I'm doing when I go through to typeset this one there. What do we have here? I see Tiny Yox number 95. I want to say yes, hello. Tiny Yox says we're addicted to dopamine. Ain't we all, though? Ain't we all? In fact, I would somewhat argue that dopamine is the only thing that you ever really become addicted to at all. But so shout outs. This is a novel editing stream. This is my 8th novel, and we're like halfway through this thing. We've been doing it for 38 days straight, and we're all starting to come a little bit unglued. We started this off like so nice and so gentle and everything, and now we're all going like a little bit mad as we're working on it, which I like. I knew that this would happen, and I'm not displeased that this is going down this way. So Lions voted for hashtag GNAA spray painted on the side of it. Oh, I got opt in birds. Oh, wait, I didn't get opt in Bird's Nest. What's up with that? I might have to leave. As you know, I can't chat without ops. So, and then in the other chat, Spathiwa says, did you know sexual intercourse is a competition? First to come wins. I always win. Sucks to be you, loser. It's a good one. Let me see there. But Freya wanted to ask Dan to just turn around, to drive her far away from here. Instead, the front door swung open, and Lassa stood wreathed in light. In her left hand was Randall's gun. Oh, shit, Dan said quietly, and he took his hands off the wheel and held them up. Lassa, it's me, Freya shouted. And he held up his palms. Lassa, it's me, Freya shouted, but the windows muffled the sound. Freya turned on the console light and waved her hand frantically. Lassa squinted into the night and then waved back with her empty hand. The gun stayed pointed at the ground as Lassa approached the car. Dan delicately rolled down the window. I like the use of the word delicately there. Oh, shit, I see Big Innerdome in the chat. Innerdome says, good morning, Lodi, and good morning, Innerdome, and then good morning, Spat. It's a place for all friends to meet up and chat hard on that old Twitch TV. Loving it. It's a beautiful fucking thing that we're here every morning. Thank you for keeping me company while I endeavor and embark on this long and lonely work. Lassa, it's me, Freya. Okay. Oh, hi, Freya. Who's this? Lassa asked, far too calm with the pistol in her hand. Her hair was wet, and there was a smell of soap carried into the car on a gust of wind. She'd just gotten out of the shower. Put the gun away, Lassa, Freya demanded. Settle down. The safety's on. Hi, who are you? She asked Dan again. That's Dan from Krav Maga. He was giving me a ride home. Hi, Miss Jokla, Dan said. Please don't shoot. My car leaks enough already. Ha! Sorry for the poor welcome, Dan. I didn't recognize your car. I was afraid you might be our very untalented house painters back for another coat. I'm more of a roller and brush kind of guy, Dan said, and Lassa snorted. Snirked. Dan's wit got quicker as he got more nervous. Come in. We have a lot to talk about, Lassa ordered Freya. She left him there and returned to the house. Freya took a deep breath. Wow, Dan said, a little stunned by the exchange. I'm so sorry, Freya apologized. No, we don't need Freya apologized. No, it's okay. Just a little jarring. Are you okay? I can head home if you want. Freya had to make a terrible decision. If she let him go home, she would have to go inside and be alone with Lassa. The thought made her feel terribly small. But if she asked him to come in, who knew what Lassa would do? What if she freaked out at Dan and he never spoke to her again? Freya was certain no matter what she chose, everything would come out wrong. Yep, there's Big Chad, who says hello in the chat right there. Hello indeed. That just reminds me that we lost Angie for good over her wanting to ban Say-J. God, the IRC drama is just never ending. I mean, we wouldn't really want it to end either. You know, what would we do with ourselves? We'd be so fucking bored. But yeah, just RIP to all the people we lost because they couldn't ban the people that they wanted to. Please don't, Freya said. Would you come inside with me? My mom gets kind of extreme sometimes. More than anything, she didn't want to face Lassa on her own. Dan nodded slowly. He understood. She hoped he understood. Sure, Dan said, as she was so relieved that she undid her seatbelt. And yeah, we already did the... Sure, Dan said, and Freya was so relieved. Wait, do Toyotas have a fucking center? I'm sure it would have like a center console. And Freya was so relieved that she leaned over to kiss him. The softness of his lips sang on hers as she pulled away, and again there was that doubling feeling. Again there was that doubling feeling, the echo of his uncertainty beneath her own, the feeling of her own lips upon his. For a moment she caught his eyes, searching him as he was searching her. Searching Dan as he was searching her. He reached out and held her hand. Why did Lassa have to be home? All the things she'd wanted for tonight. All the things she'd wanted for tonight were ruined. She felt her thoughts smoldering and his eyebrows raised. There was the expansive feeling from her dream that morning, and her cheeks burned. Wait, what was her dream this morning? An expansive feeling I think this might have been like a fucking. Hold on just a second. I'm getting more. Oh yeah, somebody was talking about. Let me see. Oh, I can't read that bash.org thing there, but I'll check it out after this. We're not going to go for too much longer this morning. Saturday sessions are the short ones, but he reached out and held Freya's hand. Searching him as she was. I think they were both searching for something. He reached out and held her hand. Why did Lassa have to be home? All the things she'd wanted for tonight were ruined. She felt her thoughts. Yeah, what was the dream that? Oh, so the dream that morning was the one where she was dreaming that they were in the same body. It was suddenly far too hot in the car, and Freya let go abruptly, catapulting into the. That's a little bit better. I like we're really like increasing some of the tension between the two of them and making like some of the things that are happening less overt, and that's going to make the payoff much better when she's strapping on and dicking him down, which is potentially what's going to go down here. Her thoughts were smoldering, remembering the dream from that morning. Dan's eyebrows raised as if he knew what she were thinking. So this Faithiwa is just there looking for like an optimal. That's what she said to pounce on there. Yeah, God. Oh yeah, if the previous chapters are any indication, then we'll have some definite fruit for whiling out. It was suddenly far too hot in the car, and Freya let go abruptly. Inside the car, she could see Dan place both hands on the wheel and draw a deep breath before he let out. He shifted his jeans as he climbed out of the car, trying to hide his excitement, but she was feeling everything. It was just like the dream. She reached into her pocket, and the Starball was there, hot with purpose. The night was new and awkward, and they walked to the door together, neither certain of what was happening, neither wanting it to end. Neither of them was certain of what was happening, and neither wanted it to end. Cool. That's not bad at all. Okay, so I think we tastefully handled the fact that this dude had to shift his... weird synchronicity, where I had to shift my pants at the beginning of this chapter for the exact same fucking reason. I'm telling you, we're writing our own future. Okay, it's written. There we go. It's in the fucking book. It's got to happen. No, I actually don't want lottery money, and I certainly don't want Effie to breed. So we're just gonna take that out. We're gonna earn this money the old-fashioned way, boys, by cheating the New York Times bestseller list. Lasso was preparing hot chocolate, which was serious business in their house. Freya could smell the cardamom pods as Lasha crushed them. Lasha. Ooh, I like the sound of Lasha. It'd be like a good name for an orc girlfriend. Just putting it out there. Any of you guys dating an orc? You might want to think about that there. In one saucepan, she was heating milk with the green pods. In a double boiler, she was melting bars of phasered chocolate with unsalted butter. As the chocolate melted and the milk simmered, she broke up a stick of Ceylon I think it's Ceylon.
Ceylon.
Okay, cool. I was right. So there's a difference between, there's like Ceylon cinnamon and another kind, and Ceylon is the like pricely kind. As the chocolate melted and the milk simmered, she broke up a stick of Ceylon cinnamon and ground it finely with a spice grinder. She had the espresso machine heating up as well to froth the milk. Freya and Dan sat on the couch, waiting as she worked, and he looked around the house, seeming a little awestruck at the high ceilings and expensive furniture. All around the house, Freya could see signs of things Lasse had moved back into place. The dining table chairs lined up just so. The washing machine was running. Lasse had unpacked everything and put it away as soon as she'd come home. Lasse brought the 2 cups of hot chocolate over to Freya and Dan. She returned to the kitchen and washed every pot before she joined them with her own cup. There was a little shortbread cookie on each saucer, and she'd poured the froth milk so that each cup had a little heart and rings of foam. Freya inhaled deeply. The smell was deeply bound in her memories. Freya inhaled the smell of cinnamon. The scent was deeply bound in her memories. Freya inhaled the cinnamon-scented steam. The smell was deeply bound in her memories. The last time Lasse made... The last time Lassa had made hot chocolate. Okay, what's that note? Needs more tasteful racism. I don't really think it needs more tasteful racism. I think that's just you. And I don't know. I think, like, honestly, Astro here, Astro is Samsung CTV. Like, the way that Astro is just like crying out for this thing that he's like obsessed with, and the rest of us are kind of like, ugh, that guy, you know, like where we find him kind of irrelevant and relatively annoying is sort of it's like a microcosm of like the whole race realism in the United States. Like a few loud and annoying people blogging, but everybody else just kind of going on with their day and them being slowly forgotten when they stop blogging. Whew. That's a cold situation to be in there, man. I feel sorry for you, nigga. But the history marches on. You know what I mean? So I see Artie Safari just joined us in the Twitch chat. Hello, Artie. We're editing a novel. Thank you for coming through. If you're interested in science fiction, it's about to get real. This is my 8th novel. I'm Zach ZYZ, the writer. And you can find all my books for free on my website. Every so often, you'll see it scrolling by in the chat right there. Enjoy. Okay, so Freya inhaled the cinnamon-scented steam. Mm-hmm. So somebody says, why do I know so little about vehicles? Coast living, cosmopolitan. I guarantee I can fly more vehicles than you can. Just fucking putting it out there. Qualified to fly way more aircraft than you are. Probably have less points on my license than you have right there. I'm a solid fucking driver. Just not super mechanical when it really comes down to it there. But yeah, and like we have a lot of specifics about cars in this fucking novel, man. I don't know where you're coming up with this bullshit, man. You know, I'm starting to increasingly feel like perhaps Astro doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Real. The last time Lassa made chocolate, Randall had been here to drink it with them. This is the fanciest hot chocolate I've ever had, Dan said. He seemed hesitant to drink it, and Freya couldn't help but grin at him. He was like an alley cat sniffing at a handout. At last he took a sip, and his eyes lit up. This is so good. Is there chai in it? That's the cardamom. The chocolate is phaserin cinnamon. Okay. Phaserin cinnamon. From my hometown of Vanada. Okay. Every single thing in here, we have to fucking pronounce. I'm just, God, doing the audiobook for this chapter is going to be so hard. Oh, I wonder, has anybody seen 1917 yet? I was thinking about going and seeing it today, but they're about out of tickets at the Draft House. All right, so I'm going to try to pronounce Salmiakki. Oh, there's not a video. Okay, cool. Thank you, easypronounce.com.
Salmiakki.
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 Salmiakki. All right, cool. From my hometown of Vanta. They make excellent salmiakki also. What's that? Dan asked, with a thin mustache of cinnamon speckled foam on his upper lip. Salty licorice, Freya grimaced, It's really gross. It is a strong flavor for strong people, Lassa replied. She settled onto the chair across from them. Even in the way she moved, Freya could see something was different. The overwound tension in her steps was gone. The dangerous part of Lassa was dormant for now. Now, who has painted over our garage so poorly? Freya began to explain, and Lassa asked so many questions here and there. Asked many questions. She was taking notes. Here and there she would tap a detail into her phone. Dan seemed a little uneasy with the interrogation at first, but he could not avoid being swept into it. If Freya could not remember a detail, Lassa would turn her gaze on him. Lassa wanted exact details about everything. The make of Malcolm's car, the clothes he wore, the time he'd arrived at the party. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There was something comforting about how thorough she was, like everything would be set to right if they only told her everything. Lassa clicked her tongue at the part about Jane confronting Freya in the hall, and shook her head. Freya knew exactly what she was thinking. She thought Freya should have stood up for herself and been the one to knock Jane down. She wouldn't bring that up with Dan here. Lassa wouldn't bring that up with Dan here. When Freya got to the part about Radomir getting attacked, Lassa set her saucer down, and her hands clenched into tight fists. Midavriete, she exclaimed. That's Finnish for what the cunt, and that I cannot pronounce that whatsoever, but that's their what the fuck. She exclaimed angrily. Do not translate that, she shot at Freya when she saw Dan's look of confusion. So this imbecile slashes your tires, he puts a child in the hospital, and now he has time to spray paint our house? Why have they not arrested him? It's been nearly an hour since I called. Where are the police? They're looking for him. He hasn't come to school since. Since the beating. What about the girl who hit you and threw the rock? Any more trouble? Lassa asked, and Freya shook her head. She knew Lassa was itching to call Lynn Harris and raise hell. This hooligan had better pray the police find him before I do, Lassa concluded. Freya winced. She should have known that was why they were getting grilled. It wasn't an idle threat. Radomir's father, Dymek, was one of Lassa's drinking buddies. Why is that auto-correcting? They watched soccer together. Freya reached into her pocket for the star ball, wishing she could use it to calm Lassa down too. It was absolutely possible that Lassa would track Malcolm down. Freya had no idea what would happen next. Would she beat him? Torture him? Kill him? How was your hike? Freya asked, trying to get some idea of Lassa's mental state. It was what I needed. I wish I had thought of it months ago. We will talk more about it privately, but I've considered a lot of what you said to me, and I want to apologize for many things. Dan was looking at the door, and Lassa caught his eyes and shook her head. We can speak of it later. After I speak with the police, I'm going to sleep for 20 hours, Lassa said. That's good. I'm really sorry for what I said, too. Dr. Garbuglio has been helping me a lot, Freya said, expecting that was one of the things that Lassa had considered. Still, there was a flash of warning in Lassa's eyes. Dan, Freya began, and then she turned to Dan for approval. I see Dr. Garbuglio, too. He's really helped me a lot, Dan said, weaving his words around the tension in the air. Really? I would have never suspected. Why? Lassa asked. Again, there was that accusing tone. She thought it was weak to see a psychiatrist. Like everyone ought to just vanish into the wilderness for weeks and fix themselves. I lost my twin sister 5 years ago, Dan said. His voice was neutral, but there were so many layers of hurt braided into it. They were all caught in it. The words struck Lassa like a blow. The interrogator's mask crumpled. It's better now, but for a few years I was in rough shape. I'm so sorry to hear that, Lassa said. Her mouth was a flat line that trembled as she tried to hold everything down. It's okay, thank you, Dan replied. Silence surrounded them as they all struggled to find words. Lassa was the one who finally spoke. I feel like gravity is broken. Nothing holds together the way it ought to, Lassa said. Freya and Dan lowered their heads. The air was suddenly too full of unspoken words. Freya wished she could reach out to her, but as she looked at her mother, she knew it was impossible. Lass's eyes were distant. She hugged her knees against her chest, a fortress against any approach. They were only an arm's length apart, but there were light years yawning between them. Freya pictured the starball gliding through the void for 100 million years. She and Lassa were on trajectories that would never intersect. I'm going to show Dan my guitar before he heads home, Freya said softly. I'm going to show Dan my guitar before he heads home, Freya said, not asking, so Lassa couldn't say no. Have fun, Lassa said softly. Her eyes were wet as she peered down into her empty cup. Damn. Damn. Don't get why people are all, you must know car, but spend fuck all hours learning how their own body works. Let's see. That's a good note. Yeah, actually, I think. Yeah, so I do want the down part of the image right there, but I think it works out a little bit better. Oh, shout outs to Big Eraser. We're actually about to wrap up here. Mainly because like it actually like hurts my neck significantly to look down. So it's a short session this time. Well, you know what? I feel like we're on a roll. Everybody's here. Let's do one more fucking chapter. So that's chapter, I think that should be chapter 55. I'm pretty happy with how this chapter went out. I like the merge of the old chapters there. There's no reason for that to be broken into two chapters. It's all the same scene. It's the same actors and so forth. Just the inclusion of Lassa didn't merit that. So that's good. It's going to make it a little easier to track where the chapters are at there. And let's see where this goes. Shout out to Big Eraser right there. I think that Eraser pretty soundly defeated Forerunner Vladimir on the show last night. That's just, that auto-tune shit just did not hold up against a very well-constructed rap. Yeah, we edited in here. It's pretty ridiculous. I will note that Eraser, have you noticed that in your last like 3 or 4 raps, you definitely spend like at least a bar or two announcing that you're white and specifying that you're like white, not brown. Like why? It's just in all your raps at the moment. I don't know. Maybe you got some pride associated with it, but good God Almighty. So Eraser just edited this bowel movement out of his body. Huh. Wild. I guess I guess deleting is part of editing. Although you can say you edited it out, but you're still kind of a piece of shit, dude. Just, putting it out there. I kid, because Eraser's a fucking real one. But I digress. So chapter 55. I had no idea how messy my house was. This place is like a museum, Dan said, looking around her room. Freya was sitting on the bed, tuning her ovation. She raised an eyebrow at Dan and started to play Everything in Its Right Place. But Dan didn't recognize the melody or get her little joke. She felt a pang of disappointment. I like that she keeps doing this. She keeps like being like, everything in its right place. So Eraser says maybe I subliminally white pride, although I'm ashamed of it. Yeah, it's just something I know. I think it has been in like your last 3 raps. Maybe it's because you feel threatened by the people of Hip Hop Discord because they were calling you out. But I will tell you, like 90% of the people in that Discord are whiter than you or I. So it's so fucking weird that when we started being on video all the time, it started coming up like what color we were. And I feel like in the era when we did LRH, before like any of us were on video, before a lot of us were like meeting up IRL or anything, we just never really had to talk like too much about race other than pretending to all be gay Negroes from outer space. Because none of us really saw each other or anything, and race just didn't sort of matter. But now that we're on video, it does sort of matter. And it's definitely in the last two. Well, I'm glad you're aware of it. I didn't want to like call you out or anything. I was just like wondered if you were aware that that was happening in your raps. Also, there has been a line about a tranny in like your last 3 or 4 raps. So I feel like it might be time for you to do some exploring of new frontiers. Right there. Don't you know? You don't want to leave this earth with regrets. You know what I'm saying? So try it out, man. Might change your life. Freya was sitting on the bed tuning her ovation. Oh, speaking of which, this is a guitar chapter. So if you're hanging out for a bit, because you actually know how to play guitar and I do not, please let me know if I fuck up anything on the guitar parts. You can be like a consultant. That's intentional. I don't know if I'm willing to dive in. Yeah, maybe you can work yourself up through raps. But Dan didn't recognize the melody or get her little joke. She felt a pang of disappointment. He wasn't musical. She shouldn't expect him to recognize a synthesizer line played on an acoustic guitar. She finished tuning. Every string, too, was in its right place. What's your favorite song? Freya asked, patting a spot on the bed next to her. He settled beside her. She reached over and set her hand on his shoulder, just because she could. He felt so solid. Oh, I don't really have a favorite, Dan said. She took her hand back, plucked a harmonic, and stared at him. Dan, everyone has a favorite song. Don't be so shy, she teased. Here in her room, holding the guitar, she felt very confident. She could take the lead. It's Angie, Dan said softly. She took a deep breath. For a moment, she felt like a fool for pressuring him, but she searched his face, trying to see how he felt. Is it okay if I play it for you? Really? Do you know it? I love the Stones. I know a lot of their songs, she nodded, making up her mind whether or not she wanted to sing. She was so much more confident in her playing than her singing. She had been meaning to ask Mr. Mathis to recommend a singing teacher for a long time, but she'd almost certain he'd just shake his head and tell her to stick to guitar. Okay, just don't make me cry, Dan joked. No promises, Freya smiled back at him, and she knew right away she was going to sing. She'd watched a few videos teaching the song. She didn't like the ones where the singers tried to copy Mick Jagger's intonation. They never quite got it, and it didn't feel honest. She'd practiced it bare, with no frills or pretense. She hoped it would sound okay. Oh yeah, she's definitely practicing bare. Oh, god damn it, he's right. That's a good spot for a semicolon, too. Uh, 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 uh. Is it really a semicolon? She finished tuning. Every string, too, was in its right place. No, that's not a semicolon, dog. I'm sorry. That does not belong there. Oh, it is. It does. It does. Because it's got a subject and a predicate. Fuck. And they're separate subjects because the subject of the first is Freya finishes tuning. And then the second clause, the string, every string is the subject. So he's fucking right. Well done. Well done. Well done. Ugh. No, we need the two there. We definitely. I know it's a little awkward to have every string two was in its right place. Oh god damn it! We can't even have two. I hate it when like I feel wrong, but I'm totally right. So, which one of my books is the best? According to Amazon Reviews, Survival Mode is the best. According to me, I think. Yeah, probably this one that we're working on right now is the best. Um, uh, Actually, my best is another one that's unpublished. It's called Lemon, Maybe, and the Electric Lady. And I think we're going to try and edit that one next. Really and truly. It's a superhero book. But that one's going to be like a full rewrite. Every and two are somewhat redundant. Yeah. Yeah. She finished tuning. Every string was also in its right place. There we go. Every string was also in its right place. I love that fucking song. Yeah, just everything in its right place is like whenever you think about Radiohead or having sex with other men, Tom York is a real one. She played the opening line once, trying to remember the song. It had been a long time since she'd practiced it. She could almost hear Mr. Mathis telling her to take it easy. Her heart was beating too fast. After a few chords, she could feel her memory locking into place, and she started over. It was such a pretty intro, one of her absolute favorites. The feeling of Dan just inches away from her on the bed kept intruding, and she shut her eyes, trying to focus on the song. The doubling feeling she'd felt in the car was sliding in between her thoughts. The doubling feeling Freya had felt in the car was sliding in behind her thoughts. The sound of the guitar rang at her from two directions at once, and though her eyes were shut, she could still see herself playing, the vision as thin as a daydream. She almost chickened out when she got to the first singing part, but the shimmering, flowing feeling was settling over her, and she didn't want it to stop. She could feel Dan's surprise as she sang out Angie. She hadn't expected this, and he was alarmed, afraid of where it might take him. It nearly made her miss the second Angie, but her fingers knew the way. And he was alarmed, afraid of where the music might take him. It nearly made her miss the second Angie, but her fingers knew the way. The notes never faltered. Self-consciousness crowded out the other feelings. She couldn't hit all the notes she wanted to. At places, her voice wasn't quite there, and the flaws dug at her. But Dan couldn't hear those notes. He was spellbound. Feeling him swept along with the song let her relax, and the sense of doubling became too strong to ignore. She could feel every breath he took, the nervous energy in his fingers as hers danced over the frets. She felt as if the world was split in half. She missed a note and her eyes opened. She found herself staring at him, overcome. The thin daydream bloomed into a full vision. Her eyes were at once blue and brown. It was as if she was simultaneously looking at Dan and into a mirror. She took a breath to recompose. He did the same, and there was only one heartbeat between them. For a second, she felt a harmony between them, like a spreading joy in her chest. But Dan was afraid of the feeling. She could feel him starting to... But Dan was afraid. She could feel him trying to peel away, and the link quivering with strain. Freya wanted the feeling very badly, and she could feel that desire increasing his fear. The feeling... Oh, wow, this is like a weird fucking situation. Dan sounds like a pleb that couldn't figure out if she was playing the right notes or not. Anyway, absolutely. Like, he likes Metallica and pretty much nothing else. Ugh. She took a deep breath and tried to let it go. She needed to find something he could hold on to. A thought sprang into her mind. Think of it like you're running. Together, they watched the surprise register on both of their faces. Oh, ooh, yeah, this is so complicated. It's now we're getting into the parts of the book that will be very difficult to write. And every one of these chapters that involves this thing happening here is going to take many attempts to get it correct. Together, they watched mutual surprise register on both of their faces. They were both swirling with thoughts of running, the dagger feeling in their sides slowly fading, their fields of view slowly shifting. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. So there was a place where there was only motion, only the desire to continue, something they both understood and sought. There. Okay, so yeah, like the if you haven't read much of the story here, the two of them initially got together over running, and so she's trying to relate that to understanding was blooming between them. They were speaking the same language now. The unity was returning. When he was calm again, Freya began to play and found the music again. When he was calm, Freya began to play. The starball was burning at her hip. They both felt it, but there was no room for questions. There was only the song. When Freya finished, there were tears running down both of their faces. They were overloaded. Mm-hmm. They were overloaded. The feeling was too strong for either to hold on their own. She slid the guitar onto the bed. There were memories swelling all around Dan, surging up from the echoes of the notes. He was exposed and afraid. I know, Freya said aloud, a little more than a whisper. She was the strong one here, the one who knew the right things to say. Everything was in those two words: relief, acceptance, understanding. They embraced, drawing as close as they could, but it wasn't nearly enough. They were tumbling forward, and they shared a fear that if they began, they could not stop. Freya, the police are here, Lasse called from the living room. Her voice cut through the door. They halted as if they'd been rear-ended at a stoplight. Freya and Dan were blinking at each other. The connection was faltering. They were two people now, sitting on a bed and grasping for something vital they'd lost. What's happening to us? Dan asked, finding his voice before her. Oh yeah, cheeks on fire. I don't know, Freya said. Am I high? Was there something in the chocolate? Dan asked. No, it's something else, Freya began, with a desperate need to tell him everything, but there was so much, it seemed impossible to begin. He could see the images she was drawing up, but he could not understand them. The spell was fading. The last echoes of the doubling were as thin as wisps of smoke between them. Freya caught a last flickering image of a dark-haired girl with her eyes shut, leaning in towards Dan. Alarm flashed in his eyes. He covered his face with his hands and he turned away. The rejection was stunning. Whatever that was, he didn't want to share it. Freya took a deep breath and found that she was alone. Lasse was calling to them, but neither could speak. Freya couldn't even move. She felt punctured like a butterfly pinned in a display. When they didn't answer Lasse's urgent knock, she entered, looking alarmed, and all they could do was stare. Her voice seemed very far away. The starball was burning in Freya's pocket, but it could not reach her. Freya, what's wrong? Lasse demanded, shaking her shoulder. Freya's hand shot up and caught her wrist automatically. They'd practiced that move over and over in class. Lasse drew back in surprise. Everything, Freya replied. Her fingers felt numb, and as she released her grip, she could feel a low, distant singing, the spreading calm as the starball began its work. We need a few minutes, okay? Normally, Lassa would have balked at her tone, which was more command than request, but nothing about this was normal. Lassa nodded and went back to the door where the police were waiting. Ooh, talking back to her mother, engaging in telepathy with a young man. Oof, it's fucking wilding out here. All right, well, this is the part where our story begins to get really fucking wild. And on top of all that, I don't know if you're counting right there, but if you multiply 388 by 2, you're still not at double 789. God damn it. Well, we're so close. We're so much closer than we had been before. Okay, so we don't go too long here. It depends on what I'm going to do today. I always try to do like a second round of editing on days like this. So we're going to go, when we do our reread, we're going to go back to chapter 54 the next time that we edit, and we'll do another read through pass right there. So thank you for everybody that's on there. Hopefully I didn't mangle the guitar parts of that too badly. And then what do we got here? So yeah, Dan plubbing it out. Yeah, I appreciate all of you tuning in for this editing stream. 38 days straight, and every day we make a little bit of slow progress. You too can make progress and follow your fucking dreams. Real talk. I'm going to save this whole thing, and we're going to get out of here. I will leave you with our introduction. Real talk.